Vintage watch collecting is intimidating, and I'm telling you this from experience. Personally, my favorite vintage watches have always been older Seiko dive watches. Two of my favorites I've owned over the years are the 62 MAS and the affectionately known Slim Turtle. This was well before Seiko went on the re-release warpath, and yeah, I literally still kick myself in the ass for parting ways with the two of these watches. And even before then, Citizen re-released the Challenge Diver, or the Fujitsubo. I had owned a numerous amount of 5110s over the years, and well before I started this channel. You can see the review of that video, Vintage Challenge Diver, right here, and the video was very popular with collectors around the world today, or last year anyway. That brings me to the Scuba Pro 500. The previous owner of this watch wanted a Citizen Challenge Diver, and he saw my video, so he wanted to trade for this watch. Obviously, I went through with the trade, as I have always wanted to get my hands on one of these. So in the past, I've been apprehensive because there's very little technical information about the watch and its dimensions online. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this review is to make sure that other collectors like you who are interested in the Scuba Pro 500 had a nice reference point to start at. So looking at the Scuba Pro 500, I'm sure you can see it resembles the Eterna Kontiki. Now I'm very familiar with the size of that watch. It's a 44mm beast with 22mm lug widths. And similar to the Scuba Pro 500 in shape, my assumption has been that the Eterna Super Kontiki would be pushing my limits on what I'm willing to wear on my 7¼ inch wrist. So what I wanted to do for you is show you the dimensions of the Scuba Pro 500 first and explain what an amazing size and dimension this watch is. That was the one thing I wanted to get out about this watch because I couldn't find it anywhere online. Now, the case of the Scuba Pro 500 measures in just under 41mm in diameter. That's not including this massive crown guard. The lug-to-lug distance is a crowd-pleasing 45mm, and its height is just over 14mm, with the lug width is a common 20mm. This watch is extremely wearable for most wrists, and for a vintage diver, it's got a very nice case design with very modern dimensions. Now, I'm going to assume that the 500 represents the water resistance, because nowhere on the case does it tell you it's water resistance. Instead, on the back of the case, it's engraved super water resistant. How cool is that? Well, now that I've given you dimensions of the Scuba Pro 500, let's talk specifics about the case and the dial. Now, I've seen a lot of these watches for sale over the years, and I've been hunting for one for a long period of time. But what I've noticed is this. Finding one in mint condition, it is rather difficult. Most examples have extremely worn cases with major dings and a lot of battle scars. Or the dial and the hands have extreme pitting over time due to moisture. Also, the mineral glass, it's usually chipped, scraped, and just worn from decades of abuse. I should also mention that these watches were sold back in the late 70s to early 80s, and I'm not sure there's an accurate way to know the actual date that these watches were produced based on the serial number on the case back. If any of you know, please jump down in the comments and let us all know. Now, there are a few specific details that I wanted to discuss about the Scuba Pro that sets it apart from other watches. First, it has this sunburst brushing on the top of the case. So you're going to notice that the brush strokes actually point outward from the dial. The sides are polished and the back of the case is polished as well with this beautiful stamped Scuba Pro logo. And there are some faint engravings on the case back about the water resistance, stainless steel construction, being Swiss made, Inca block shock protection, and its serial number. All that's located on the case back. Now, if you turn your attention to the bezel, you're going to see this chunky like sawtooth pattern that's specifically designed for underwater grip. And it's a 60-click unidirectional bezel. The bezel insert, I believe it is ceramic. Mine's black, but there are gray inserts available on some other examples that are for sale. Personally, I love the black bezel, but I do believe the gray bezel insert examples are a little harder to find. That's just in my experience of hunting for these watches for so long. One of the other debates that you're going to find online is who actually made these watches for Scuba Pro. As most of you know, Scuba Pro is one of the most, if not the most recognizable names in dive equipment around the world. Like other dive brands, such as Cressy, Scuba Pro sourced out their dive watches to be made by some Swiss luxury brand. By the way, in 2022, I did this review on the Cressy Sea Lion, which is an amazing luxury dive watch. If you're interested in watching that review, I'm going to leave a link for it right here. Anyway, some believe that the Scuba Pro was actually made by Nevada Grenchen. Others believe it was made by Eterna itself, hence the similarities in the case design. I'm not sure who produced this watch, but the debate, it's become kind of heated in certain corners of the internet by watch sleuths. That's for sure. Anyway, let's take a closer look at the dial and hands. The dial is a matte black with this old tritium lume. Now the tritium's well past its expiration date, but you'd know it's tritium due to the T-Swiss at the bottom of the dial. The print of the dial is very minimal. With the Scuba Pro logo, it's applied just below the 12 o'clock indice. And by the way, I think the logo and the branding is about the perfect size for the dial size. And below the pinion, you're going to see simply automatic is printed below. Now, I know there's quartz versions of this particular watch, and they just replace the automatic with quartz in those versions. This watch has the reliable ETA 2784, which is a non-hacking, but also I think it's a surprising choice based on its military application. But I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a minute, so just stand by for that. The ETA 2784 does display the date, which is a quick set adjustment, and it beats at 28,800 beats per hour, which gives that second hand that nice smooth sweep. The hands are polished. They're Mercedes hands, which that makes sense due to its easy legibility while diving. The second hand is done in this bright orange to match the triangle at the 12 o'clock in the bezel insert. Now, in some examples, the second hand is polished or white. So I have to admit that I love and I prefer the orange second hand because it gives the watch a bit of a pop. Also, from a technical point of view, the orange is always going to be more legible for divers at deep depths. The Eterna Super Kontiki has always been known for its wide appeal to military branches around the world for years. And since I knew the Scuba Pro shared a lot of the similarities in case design as the Super Kontiki, I had assumed that there had been some military applications with the Scuba Pro 500 as well. So a few years ago, I started to do my research on this topic, and I'm happy to report to you guys, especially if you're like me and you love to collect watches of military provenance, that there have been examples of the Scuba Pro 500 with markings from Swedish Navy attack diver regiments and the Norwegian Jaeger Marines wearing them on duty. So the bottom line is this Scuba Pro 500 is a tool watch that's tough, extremely legible, and purpose-built to a point that it was chosen to be used by military units throughout the world. Which brings me to my next point. It's wearability. You're going to notice that I have this watch paired with this Bonito Santorini rubber strap, and that tapers down to 16 millimeters, which makes this watch very easy to wear on the wrist. With a compact lug-to-lug distance of 45 millimeters, this watch wears really well on my 7¼ inch wrist. It is 14 millimeters tall, so it's going to catch a lot of door frames as you're walking by them, and I'm pretty sure this example has over the years as well. But with the short lug-to-lug distance and its cushion case design, this watch also is really at home on NATO straps. I love wearing this watch with County Com NATO style straps. That's what I've had in my collection for years. But recently I got these Sifu nylon straps, which have become some of my favorite NATO type of options. I'm going to be doing a separate review of these straps, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. So I'll give you more information on these cutting edge style NATO straps. They're designed differently than normal ones. Anyway, so let me ask, if you're in the market for a dive watch, one that's iconic and has some military provenance, and it's still readily affordable and attainable in 2025, should you consider the Scuba Pro 500? Absolutely. You can jump on Chrono24 or eBay. You can find examples priced from $1,000 to $2,000 on average. But like any vintage watch, you really want to make sure you buy the seller as well. That's important. And be prepared to do a service. I mean, the ETA 2784 was a very common and robust movement, so servicing costs shouldn't be too expensive, but take that into account when you're buying one of these. I also wanted to point out that the Scuba Pro 500 came in this cushion style case, which it seems to be the more popular and more readily available case, but they also had the Scuba Pro in a Seiko tuna can-ish case as well, so you'll find those out on the market. Now, speaking of Seiko, many of you probably heard that Scuba Pro had also made the Scuba Pro 450, which is based off the 6306 turtle case, which is basically a 6309 turtle case. It's the common case that you're going to know, but it's the JDM, or the Japanese domestic market reference. So that's 6306. So if you ever decide to go down this rabbit hole, you should know a couple of things. First of all, the Seiko Scuba Pro 450 is extremely rare. I've read that it was only available from 1978 to 84, and only by catalog, and there were only about 1,000 examples ever produced. Unfortunately, over the last 10 to 15 years, there are a lot of fake dials in the market, and it'll take a lot of research to make sure you have an original dial paired up with the 6306 JDM case. So just keep that in mind if you ever decide to do that. So if you were going to search for a Scuba Pro 500 to buy today, would you prefer the black bezel insert or the gray bezel variant? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this tour down memory lane, or you just simply enjoyed learning more about the Scuba Pro 500, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for some more unique watch content. And if you made it this far, let me introduce myself. My name is Blake. I am a bit of a watchaholic, and if you made it this far, I'm going to assume you are a watchaholic too. So thanks again for stopping by my channel and spending your time with me. I'll catch you in the next video.